What up, B Squad? It is me, JB, and I am here today with another review for Baddies USA Season 8, Episode 10. You guys, this episode was titled Baddies Fragmentation. So before we go ahead and get into it, if you're watching this video or any other video on the channel and you're not subscribed yet, I need you guys to do me a huge solid favor and stop taking me out on this date and then having me pay for it at the end of it. You guys know the routine. You can do me that favor by liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and also by turning on your post notifications. And with that out of the way, without further ado, let us go ahead and get into this episode of Baddies USA, shall we? All right, so if you watched this episode, feel free to let me know what you thought about it in the comment section or in the live chat. Now, this episode, it picks up where the last one ended, and you guys remember the last one ended with that fight between Suki and Gretchen. Now, what I will say is when it comes to Suki and Gretchen fighting, I honestly cannot say who I believe won or lost that fight because it was an interesting fight to say the least to me. So yeah, they had that fight. What I was also confused about was Biggie. Like, I just don't understand why Biggie was screaming at the top of her lungs. Like, Biggie was the problem I have with Biggie is that Biggie does the most, and it just be for sometimes for no reason because she just kept screaming, Suki, Suki, Suki. I'm like, Biggie, shut up, girl. Like, what are you doing? Like, I just really didn't understand what Biggie was doing, right? But again, like I said, I'm not gonna sit here and say who I think won the fight between Gretchen and Suki. If you guys want to chime in, feel free to leave it in the comment section. I really don't care, right? So then Rolly had to start the house meeting, right? And you guys remember the last time she was on the phone with Natalie. Natalie was telling her like, "Hey, the girls that got booed on the stage, let's basically have them not perform, right?" So it came up like who all got booed. So they were like, "Well, Summer, you got booed. I think Summer got booed, Dolly got booed, Lex got booed, Gretchen got booed, and they threw something. They threw a water bottle at Gretchen, and then Nunu got booed, right?" So Summer is saying she don't give a fuck that she's performing. I was like, but see, and this is the problem with when it comes down to Summer. Nobody has ever checked Summer, and that's been the biggest problem when it comes to this show and these girls. Some of y'all have thought, some of them have thought it was funny the things that Summer said and did, and they never wanted to clock it and check it. But now that it's affecting them, now you want to call it out, i.e., Natalie, i.e., Dolly, and i.e., Lex, which we'll definitely get into that once we get to it, right? So Lex was like, "Well, they didn't really boo me." And someone's like, "No, girl, they definitely booed you. They were like, Big Ivory, Big Ivory." And I was like, well, damn, Summer, again, I know Summer ain't cool with them at this point, but it's like, shit. At one point, Lex was your friend, so why are you literally sitting here? And once again, Biggie feels the need to chime in. I was like, Biggie, do you, me, and everybody a favor and just shut up. Like, mind your business, right? So at this point, you got Lex, Dolly, and Summer going back and forth with each other, right? And Lex is basically telling Summer, like, stop speaking on her like you weren't there, you don't know this stuff. And I'm like, again, the same stuff that you want to say to Summer now is stuff that Summer was doing last season, but you guys were okay with it. It really is now a problem when it's being done to you guys, and that's hypocritical, right? Now, Lex was basically telling Summer, like, yo, Summer, stop talking about me. Like, I'm giving you grace because you and I were once friends. But she's basically telling Summer at this point, if you keep poking and prodding, that the grace won't be extended any further, which we know that grace will not be, right? So then we see Summer, and she decided that she wants to call out Mariah Lynn, right? So she and Mariah Lynn, they, I guess you could say they squared up with each other, but they squared up with each other and they got to fight. And per usual fight with Mariah Lynn and Summer, both of them be swinging at air and missing each other, right? But at one point, Summer was able to grab the hell out of Mariah Lynn's hair. And then Mariah Lynn was like, I kicked you in the pussy. I was like, oh God, weird. But neither here nor there, right? So then Tommy ended up getting to the house, right? So she comes into the crib and all the girls are sitting at in the living room. But Tommy instead decides to go towards the kitchen. So Rolly was like, you know what, let me go check on Tommy. Let me go talk to Tommy. So Rolly went to go check on Tommy in the kitchen. Summer got up to walk in the kitchen where Tommy is. And I was like, when did you become cool with Tommy? But I do have to remember, now I don't keep up with everything that goes on when it comes to baddies, but I do remember that there was a live that Summer and both Tommy were on. But I didn't know that they were cool like that. But I mean, okay, cool, whatever, right? So when Summer got up to go in there where they were, Mariah Lynn decided to jump over the couch and sneak the hell out of Summer. Now, granted, I don't like Summer at all, but I did look at Mariah Lynn like, damn, that was a weak ass move for you to do that, just for you to sit there and sneak that girl. Like, why would you do that? That was unnecessary, and it looked kind of weak on you. It looks weak, right? But that's neither here nor there, right? So after that, we then see as hold on. All right, so back to Summer Mariah Lynn. I just didn't agree with Mariah Lynn hitting Summer, and this is coming from somebody who don't even like Summer. If you want to fight the girl, square up with what you did. But again, neither one of them can fight. So whatever. But hey, that's all I got for that. So then we move on. So Biggie took her behind into the kitchen where Tommy is, right? Because Biggie wants to have a conversation with Tommy about, what Tommy said to her, basically telling her she's not a star and all this kind of stuff, right? Am I upset with Biggie for wanting to confront this? No, I'm not upset at all with Biggie. But the problem that I have is I don't understand why Biggie wanted to have a conversation with Tommy, because Tommy at this point, Tommy came into the house with a glass in her hand. So I'm like, you clearly see that this heifer has been drinking or at least drunk, right? But neither here nor there, Biggie wants to have the conversation with Tommy, right? And so throughout this whole entire conversation, Biggie is doing nothing but yelling at Tommy. And Tommy, like I said, drunk as hell and not really paying Biggie any attention and literally sitting here in Biggie's face laughing at her. I was like, Biggie, have some self-respect about yourself, because this girl is literally in your face laughing at you. I'm not gonna sit here and be friends with I'm not gonna sit here and be friends with somebody that's laughing in my face and I'm telling them how I feel. I'm not gonna sit. And then Biggie was like, fuck Rolly, fuck all this stuff, Tommy. I need an apology from you, bro. Like, I need you to apologize to me. Like, apologize to me. And Tommy told her no, because she wanted her to apologize for putting her hand on her, right? And Tommy told Biggie no. And I was like, you know what, Biggie? She told you no. That means she's okay with disrespecting you. And that's why I don't understand some of these friendships on baddies. It's like, if you go as far as to put your hands on me, you violate me. And so that our friendship at that point is going to be null and void. So Biggie's like, I'm not gonna put my hands on her. Like, I'm not gonna touch her. I'm not gonna touch her. Like, I'm not gonna touch her. But Biggie, you were lying because you definitely did touch Tommy. Like you and when I say she touched Tommy, she muffed the shit out of Tommy in the face. And honestly, I wasn't even upset about it because again, you're literally sitting here letting this girl disrespect you in your face, and you cool. You were like you want to be friends with her, and so Tommy got up to try to hit Biggie, but security got in the way, and I was like, okay, this is a hot ass mess, right? And so then Tommy is sitting here, Biggie is screaming. Biggie went into the other room with the other girls with her wig take half off and just telling them what happened, right, with her and Tommy. And I was like, okay. So then Tommy is in the kitchen with Taseki, Mariah Lynn, and Anna, basically telling them, like, Biggie doing all this shit. And I had a conversation with Biggie. And so they were like, but Biggie said she ain't talked to you since whenever. And Tommy was like, me and Biggie talked on Saturday. So she went and got her phone. Now, I don't know if she showed them like call log where her and Biggie was on the phone or if she showed them text messages. But either way it go, I guess the girls believe her, like, well, damn, you did talk to her, right? At the same time, they are talking to Tommy and telling Tommy, like, when it comes down to you, Biggie always talks about you. Like, she really talks about you. And we like, girl, you really like her. And even Tasiki was like, she be defending you against people knowing she can't fight. I was like, okay, that's her. Has Tommy done that for her? Like, I ain't gonna sit here and defend a person that don't defend me. Like, I don't do one-sided ass friendships, but it seems like Biggie wants to do a one-sided ass friendship, which is interesting to me. But hey, if Biggie like it, I love it for Biggie, right? But Tommy ended up leaving the house, right? So then the girls, they ended up leaving because they're going back to the hotel room, right? So on the bus, Summer is still upset and talking about the fact that she wants to call Natalie up and because she wants to perform because she feels a way that y'all telling me I can't perform, but then you say that Big Lex can perform, right? So they're telling her not to call Natalie. Don't call Natalie. Don't call Natalie. Don't call Natalie, right? But Summer ends up FaceTiming Natalie. And I was like, now they just told you that this girl is grieving and going through something, but you decide to call her. Whatever, Summer. So Summer calls Natalie and telling her, like, you said that the girls who got booed on stage, they can't perform, but then this bitch is talking about the fact that Lex is gonna be able to perform. And and so Rolly was like, what bitch? Like, who you calling a bitch? And so Summer stood up on that couch. I was like, Summer, Rolly can still pull your little ass down and beat you if she wanted to. Because Rolly was like, look here, Summer, I ain't been disrespectful to you at all, right? And then she's like, they talking about Lex can perform, but Lex got booed. They were saying Big Ivory, Big Ivory. I was like, Summer, shut up. Like, Summer was really honestly getting on my nerves at that particular moment. Like, I get where you're coming from in the sense that if Lex can perform, but Lex got booed, then why can't I perform? Like, I got where someone was coming from. I'm not upset with how she feels. I get where she's coming from, but the way that Summer articulates herself, the way that Summer says things and does things, it's a problem. But you guys will tell me what you think and what you feel. So then the next day we see Asfana and Cold Killer, they having a conversation about this whole Nunu thing. And Cold Killer still feels away. Like, Nunu up her talking about she was checking my temperature, but bitch, you didn't really check my temperature because if you were checking my temperature, you would have asked me what type of time am I on, which I agree with that, right? They also talked about Gretchen. So I guess Gretchen went to the hospital the night before. Fauna has checked on Gretchen, but Cold Killer hasn't at this point. Then we see Lex, Nunu, Mariah, and Biggie as they're all having a conversation with each other, right? And they're talking about this whole Gretchen and Suki thing. What I will say is, I do find it rather interesting when it comes to Lex, that Lex has now changed her stance about Gretchen. Because if you remember on Baddies Midwest, she was defending Gretchen, which that was the reason why she was fighting Jayla, because of what Jayla had done the previous season to Gretchen. But now that you in this girl's presence and this girl is saying nigga on a consistent basis, now you guys have a difference. Now you guys feel different. And then who was it? Somebody was trying to say, oh well, she says stupid shit when she gets drunk. That is not something that you say. Like, if you say nigga when you get drunk, then that's your true feelings. So I want y'all to miss me with that bullshit, right? Please miss me with that bullshit. They also talked about the whole jumping thing. Mariah Lynn's like, you know what, I can't even talk because I'm guilty of it myself, right? But they talked about Tommy and whatnot. So then we see Summer as she's having a conversation with Rolly, Tasiki, and Sapphire, right? And she apologized for the way that she handled things. And although Rolly is not my favorite person, I can say that I had respect for Rolly when Rolly was like, you know what, I appreciate you apologizing to me, Summer. And I honestly got where you were coming from when you were saying what you were saying about, Lex and her performing, but you not performing. But like I said a few minutes ago, it's all about how Summer says things to people, right? So then we get another house meeting. And Dolly's like, is this a real house meeting? Because, if it's not, I got some stuff that I want to address. So she wants to address Summer, right? And she was like, me and you, we're not friends, right? And she was like, do we have issues with each other? And so I'm like, no, girl, me and you were friends, so we're not friends no more. And she was like, so do you want to fight? And she was like, no, girl, I don't want to fight you. Like, I'm not going to fight somebody that was my friend, which I will give Summer that, right? If me and you once called each other friends, we can fall out, we can stop being friends with each other, but it don't mean that when we fall out with each other, that because we falling out with each other, we got to put hands on each other. That's stupid to me, right? So Dolly told her, like, don't say shit else to me, because if you do, she gonna basically tell her she gonna fight her, and if any of the other girls say anything, she gonna have an issue with them, right? And she kept going, like, she sat down, then she got back up, like, she kept going back and forth with someone. I was like, girl, here's my thing to you, Dolly. Like, if you want to fight someone because you were really amped and animated, you should have just went over there and hit her in the fucking face, right? Also, one thing with Dolly, she's not an ugly girl, but I will say her makeup in her interview is not the best. It's too dark. So Rolly then told the girls, like, hey, so the girls that are not going to be performing on stage, you girls are going to be going out to the club, right? And then the rest of us will be going to rehearsal with Natalie. And she was like, Summer, when you go out, girl, don't get drunk. And that's once again when Dolly got up and started addressing her. I was like, Dolly, sit down and shut up. So we got a long ass scene with Scotty and Jayla, right, in Milan. They out shopping at the Prada store. And all I gotta say is Scotty was talking about, her relationship with Lemmy, how she thinks her body's gonna change, how she feels Lemmy might, what she feels, and how she doesn't hope Lemmy changes once they had a baby. I don't give a damn. I really don't care. Because here's the thing that I'm gonna say to you, Scotty. I know I'm still pretty new to the Baddies universe, the Baddies world, and all that kind of stuff. But from what I've heard, wasn't he with Janisha when you got with him? So I think you're probably worried about losing him the same way that you got him. And if that's what it is, then girl, that's something that you got to work with yourself, right? So then we see the girls as the girls. Some of the girls who are not going to the club go to get ready for rehearsals versus the so we see girls in different vans, right? And what I will say is, it's interesting, like I said earlier, this whole Lex, Dolly, and Summer thing, right? Like I said, it was cool and fun and cute when it was the other girls last season, but now that it's them, they don't like it, right? And then Dolly was even questioning Cole Killer about, like, why you defending K Rican. And I'm so glad that Cole Killer was like, girl, the reason I'm doing what you guys did last season with Summer. And I was like, exactly. Exactly. So let's move on from that. Like, let's do that. So then we get to Natalie. So Natalie is big and bad and ready to, get, just put these girls in their place, Summer included, because she was like, they're all meeting up with Natalie, and Natalie was like, I want Summer to come in here first. I want Summer to come in here first. So sit the fuck down right there so I can see you. I was like, oh God, Natalie, you're really doing a whole hell of a lot. But hey, that was the episode. Feel free to let me know what you guys thought about the episode down in the comment section below. Subscribe to the channel, turn on your post notifications, and also share the video. And until next time, stay safe, take care of yourselves, wash your hands, be blessed, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.